The funeral of flowers. My sister and I would often play on the trail behind our parents' apartment complex. My favorite time of the year to visit this area had been in spring, just after the chill of winter had left and the ice had melted, which gave us a creek that we could splash around in. There were blooming trees to climb and lilac bushes by the dozen to stick our noses in and inhale the lovely aroma. It was while our noses were buried deeply into one and our hands filled with relic springs to take home to Mom, that an elderly woman appeared behind us. We were startled at first, but she had a warm smile and wrinkly face. We soon realized that we had nothing to fear and smiled back at her. "Lilacs, just lovely, aren't they?" she asked us, bustling in between us to smell them herself. "They're my favorite flower. They just smell so good." She took in another lungful and pulled back to look at my sister and me. Her face suddenly filled with sadness. I can remember them at Lincoln's funeral, the smell of them so strong, so sad, but they still remain my favorite. "President Lincoln?" I asked, and she nodded. "It was a grand funeral. Do you remember it?" I shook my head and glanced at my sister, who returned my look with just as much bemusement. Lincoln had been married in 1865, as we had learned in school. We were in the year 1996, 131 years after Lincoln had been buried. Of course, we couldn't remember it. Not to mention, we were in the heart of Denver, hundreds of miles away from Lincoln's grave. I turned around, wishing to ask Lady more questions, but found she had vanished. There was no sign of her anywhere. We never spoke about her again. The incident fading from my sister's memory. She had been 7 years old at the time, and when we were asked if she remembered that lady a few years ago, she could not recall the meeting, but has since remained strong in my mind. It wasn't until a few weeks ago when I was reminded of the lady. I saw a lilac bush while listening to an audiobook of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and I wondered if lilacs were even at his funeral. I immediately did a web search and found that his funeral was known as the Funeral of Flowers. Soldiers threw lilacs on the street in front of his carriage, the blooms being crushed, releasing the scent and forever jading those in attendance memories at the smell. The realization that I had met a lady who claimed to be there had me anxious and near tears, and even as I write the words now, my skin, God, and even now as I write the words down, has my skin prickling.